it does. Even, I mean, I know Hangman Page hasn't had the same sort of history as Adam Cole and everything, but it does kind of feel a bit like an NXT main event.
Yeah,
Which, again,
I would
comes
say
with
even
the plan.
NXT main event is a bit generous for these two.
I mean, I don't know. I'm still largely a fan of Adam Cole, even though he had to endure that awful feud with Orange Cassidy recently. But I still think, he's got enough about him where, like, given the right feud, he could turn into one of the biggest baby faces of the company. He sort of punches above his weight in a way, because he doesn't look like a main eventer. His in-ring work is pretty good. His promo work isn't bad, but he seems to have some kind of a connection with the fans, which I think again is can be a little bit rare these days. So, but I agree with you with Hangman Page. The guy is a mid.
Yeah, no, Dan, I agree with you. I think Cole is really talented, but it's just that they haven't done a great job booking him, which is quite disappointing.
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is, I mean, right from the way he debuted, like the guy was overshadowed by Bryan Danielson, and that sort of carried on. He's been overshadowed by one person or the other, and he's been left in the background in almost everything he's done.
Yeah, there was definitely a sense of certainly with the last couple of feuds he's been in, that they didn't really know what they were doing with him, which, given somebody who's as talented as Adam Cole, that says a lot about AEW's creative team, that they struggle to make him the big deal that he actually is. But yeah, like even this championship feud, I mean, it feels a little bit thrown together. There was no real build up to speak of. I think both guys really in this match have been let down by their gimmicks. I mean, Hangman Page's gimmick just seems to be completely all over the place. Like, a lot of people are, say he appeals to them because he's encapsulates this generation's, sort of anxious, low self-esteem type persona. But then he's supposed to be a cowboy doing cowboy shit. He's aligned with the Dark Order. Like it's all over the place. And Adam Cole really isn't faring much better.
The funny thing is, I mean, Adam Cole came out and like declared that he wanted to go after the title the week after he jobbed to Orange Cassidy, in like a Falls Count Anywhere match or something like that. It was hilarious. Um, yeah, I mean, it's like Adam Cole's mic work, which I'm a fan of, usually hasn't even come through to the fore, I feel like, in this feud. So a bit disappointed there. And yeah, Dan, like you said, that's a great point in the sense that these guys are sort of stuck and not sure where to go with their characters. Is it fair to say that with Hangman Page, it's sort of one more of these guys where the journey was better than the destination, as in he had the great chase and everything, but now there's just nowhere for him to go as champion.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. Yeah, he embodies that idea of the money's in the chase type thing. Which again, I don't suspect he will be holding the belt for too much longer for that reason, because I think they are already running out of things to do with him as champion. Although at least they know now that if they wanted to return to him being the number one contender against somebody, they could do that, because obviously enough of the fans like him for it to work. But again, I mean, if all things considered, Adam Cole wouldn't be a terrible AEW World Champion. It's just that I think again the time is ready for MJF to emerge from his feud with Punk and become the champion. But whether they do that or not is a different matter.
But no, I don't. I think Adam Cole is perfectly capable of being a good, NXT champion. Pardon me, AEW champion. I just
Freudian slip there.
I just don't think they've done a great job building him up at this point. Like, if he beats Hangman Page now, he's just some guy who pulled off an upset and got like some meaningless title change, if you know what I mean. Like, it would feel a much bigger deal if, as you said, if MJF came away with it.
It's just, there has to be some kind of long-term booking in mind in it, and I get the impression that, if Cole does win the championship, it is just something that's been thrown together, and, like AEW thinking, oh, this could work on the night, but what we're going to do after that, we're not too sure about. But again, I mean, other than Hangman Page's return matches, I mean, there's no one really that would scream out as somebody who would feud with Adam Cole going forward, because if you do an MJF Adam Cole thing, the whole dynamics are off. I mean, okay, there's some other guys that you could throw it in, but again, it would feel a little bit hapdash and thrown together as opposed to something that's been planned out.
Our dear friend Kenny Omega coming back is sort of
I mean, that's the return that some people are waiting for, because there is, if nothing else, there is a ready-made story going on. It'll be inevitably going to be sort of Red Dragon they're calling themselves now, the Undisputed Era. Yeah. So the whole Red Dragon versus the Elite is coming up, and I for one couldn't care less, but there are other people out there that seem to, so gotta let them have it. But
I'm sure we've talked about this before, but these guys are probably going to want to do like the Elite versus the Bullet Club at some point, no?
Anyway, should we get back to Revolution?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe sort of the next one down on the list that I'm personally looking forward to is the Danielson and Moxley feud. Again, probably more for Danielson than for Moxley, but any excuse to watch a Bryan Danielson match, I'm happy to take. Not particularly interested in anything that they've really done, although I did kind of enjoy that one promo that Danielson did where he was trying to sort of encourage Moxley to sort of join him as this kind of there's somebody who stands up for sort of the integrity of wrestling, and he wanted to essentially sort of build like a faction where he could train guys to sort of be like them, I guess. But I don't think they're going anywhere with that. But I enjoyed the promo in itself, because I think he made some really good points, even though he was the heel. But
some people would question whether Jon Moxley is in any sort of position to defend the integrity of professional wrestling, but
well, yes, I was about to say it was a great promo. It just he did it with the wrong person.
But I don't know. I'm probably not one of those people. I don't mind Jon Moxley that much. I'm okay with him, really. But yeah, as you said, Dan, the heel Bryan Danielson's fantastic. Enjoy watching him, sort of unleashed and doing his thing. There's nobody better to talk down to an audience, especially the AEW audience, than Bryan Danielson. It's fantastic to watch. I obviously wish he hadn't lost to Hangman Page, but apart from that, he's been fantastic, really.
Yeah, he is just the perfect heel, for AEW at the moment, because he has that kind of that air of righteousness and everything that he just wasn't able to get in WWE. Like, WWE Daniel Bryan was always the underdog, and that worked fine, but it's just a different story in AEW. And again, we've said it so many times before, but just the versatility of the guy to be able to be both a compelling babyface and a compelling heel is just tremendous.
Hopefully he and Punk can can fill in that Stone Cold shaped void in my heart.
you gotta let it go, man. It's not gonna. Do you think it matters who comes out of this one with the win? Like, do you think it's that kind of feud, or is it just a case of enjoying the match for what it is?
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's just enjoying the match for what it is and seeing where it goes from there. Obviously, Jon Moxley should not be beating Bryan Danielson, right? I mean, that would be a travesty if he did. But since he's just come back from rehab and everything, I wouldn't be surprised to see Moxley win this one.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that because, like, purely from a wrestling storyline perspective, I don't think anyone should be beating Bryan Danielson. I think you've got to maintain that sort of gimmick that he has of just being a wrestling machine that's incredibly difficult to beat. The only way that I'd maybe be okay with it is if, because we've seen before, Jon Moxley's supposed to be a babyface, but he's won with so many underhand tactics over the years that it's kind of ridiculous. So if he does that, fine. That kind of gives Danielson a bit of an out, I guess. But no, I mean, yeah, Bryan should really be winning this one.
Yeah, fair enough. So that's number 2 on our list right now. We've already gone through. I'll be honest with you, I don't even have Hangman Page and Adam Cole is number 3. As much respect as I have for Adam Cole, they don't even make number 3 for me.
No, fair enough. Is there a particular match you wanted to focus on next?
Jericho and Kingston?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, and yeah, again, another good storyline really going into this.
Yeah. They got Santana and Ortiz involved in it as well. I didn't know those guys had a relationship with Eddie Kingston that went way back. Kingston, of course, is such a fantastic personality, Dance. Wonderful promo, one of the best in wrestling today, not just AEW. He's hopefully going to finally get his moment in the sun against Jericho.
Yeah, again, I wasn't too aware of the history with Santana and Ortiz and Kingston. But I guess, like, to AEW's credit, I guess they've tried to tell that story to people that obviously wouldn't have known. Because to a large extent, AEW is guilty of that sometimes. It's kind of it asks its audience to assume a lot of knowledge that it probably wouldn't have, unless you're somebody who watches, Being the Elite every week on YouTube. I mean, so like, fair play to them for sort of incorporating the backstory into this feud, but giving us a little bit of insight into kind of what it's all about, I guess. And yeah, it's your classic, will they, won't they type thing going in. Are they going to come out and help Kingston get the win over Jericho and fully, like, turn heel, or would that even would that be a heel turn really? Or I guess at the minute, would it be more of a heel move to attack Jericho and help Kingston win, or vice versa, do you think?
No, I don't think so at all, Dan. I think, if anything, Jericho is the de facto heel sort of going into this match, no?
It seems to be the case, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I was quite done with Jericho for a little while because, I just find a little bit of this washed up rocker thing to be a bit cringy. And it looked for all the world as though, he was even gone on the mic because he sort of resorted to his 90s gimmicks and, like, went back to the old catchphrases and all of that. Yeah, I mean, great promo with the Kingston on the Go Home show, so that sort of got me interested in it.
I'm hoping that what comes out of this feud is like an elevated position for Santana and Ortiz. Probably Santana really more so than Ortiz, because I think Santana is a real talent. I think like we've said before, and I do look forward to the days when he has his singles run, because I think he can do a lot. So if that helps him come out of this looking stronger, then I think that can only be a good thing. Yeah, it's an interesting one with Jericho. I mean, although it's like Vince McMahon has kind of just put a bit of a ceiling on this whole debate, because of we're discussing whether Jericho may be a bit too past it now, but then we're also getting ready for a 78-year-old man to step into the ring at WrestleMania. So relatively speaking, Jericho's a young pup, really.
At this point, doesn't look like Jericho will go back to WWE for anything other than anything other than like a Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah, I really hope that does happen. I mean, I know Vince can be a bit petty, but Chris Jericho is obviously like a surefire Hall of Famer and deserves to be in there. So I'm really hoping that they can do that. And I guess they have sent him a bit of some overtures recently. I mean, he did appear on Stone Cold's podcast on the WWE Network, so there's still some link there, but.
Yeah, exactly. And there's plenty of love for Jericho amongst the fans as well. So.
One match I wanted to just bring up, and I again on paper I'm looking forward to it, although I haven't really been following the feud leading up to it too much. But Britt Baker against Thunder Rosa looks like it should be a pretty good asset to the card. AEW has this pretty unfortunate tradition recently of its women's matches pretty much being just something that kind of just sucks the life out of everybody and doesn't get anybody's interest up or anything. But these two women are incredibly talented. They've fought together before and they've put on some pretty good matches together, so I'm looking forward to it just from a purely in-ring standpoint. Still don't think it's right to take the belt off Britt Baker. I think she's doing a great job holding up the roster on her shoulders pretty much, but should be a good match nonetheless.
Fair enough. It's probably too soon for Thunder Rosa's coronation, do you think?
Yeah, I would think so. But it's really great to see like how far Thunder Rosa's come in the wrestling world. I mean, I know she's got some MMA background, but I first became aware of her when I was watching NWA Power. She was became NWA Women's Champion on that show. And straight away there was just something about her. She had that kind of it factor that thankfully AEW was able to recognise. Always interested to know, to think what would have happened if she'd gone to WWE and sort of mingled with some of the female talent over there. But in terms of AEW's women division, I think both Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker are just far too good for everybody else. But
I knew she was at Lucha Underground for a few years. Were you a fan of Lucha Underground?
I must admit I never really watched it.
Right.
So I can't really have an opinion on it either way. It wouldn't be fair of me. But I guess she did spend a bit of time over there. So yeah, I at least for me, I think we've exhausted all of the matches that I'm actually looking forward to, and I think the rest of the card is just stuff that we're just going to have to endure, unfortunately. I mean, there's some interest for me, I guess, with the ladder match. I think it's the winner gets the TNT title. Is that right? Some names in there that I certainly am quite looking forward to seeing. I mean, Keith Lee, obviously. Ricky Starks I've been a fan of, again, since the NWA Power days. He was a really good television champion over there, and he's still a young guy, so he's still got a lot of time to sort of find his niche properly. But I always enjoy watching him wrestle. I mean, I would imagine Wardlow would come out of this with a win, or
I mean, Keith Lee's on it as well, so I mean, it's hard to. I don't know. I mean, yeah, Wardlow or Keith Lee, you'd think it'd be one of those two guys.
Yeah. I guess the only thing would be, Wardlow's a bit too tied up with the whole MJF stuff, so maybe, Wardlow as TNT champion doesn't really make sense, to be honest.
But this seems like an awful lot of fuss, Dan, for a shot at the TNT championship.
Well, yes, that's that's the other thing, I guess.
But then again, you could also make the argument right now that the TNT championship feels like a bigger deal than the world title.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I definitely don't fault them for trying with the TNT title. It's just that, I mean, obviously, it just naturally doesn't have the history and the prestige of something like the Intercontinental Championship. And WWE, pretty much do a terrible job of booking that title for the most part. So, I would give some credit to AEW for at least taking the secondary belts seriously, because it's. But like you say, it does run the risk of going a bit too far the other way, where they start to overshadow the World Championship. Although, having said that, I can't defend the option of having a TBS Women's Championship. Like, why would you have a secondary belt in a division that is struggling anyway? Yeah. Like, I don't know. Maybe people won't like me saying this. Maybe I'll get into a bit of trouble saying it. But it feels a little bit like sort of positive discrimination. It's like, let's give the women a secondary belt because it feels right to have them on the same par as the men. But if you're really talking about it in terms of merit, like, the women's division is nowhere near the men's division, and a lot of stuff needs to happen before they can start considering secondary belts and tag belts and everything. So
it makes sense for WWE to do it, but then
exactly, yeah, definitely. I mean, although going by how they've booked the tag titles, I wouldn't be holding out too much hope, to be honest. But the roster definitely deserves a secondary belt, whereas AEW really doesn't. Jade Cargill, I guess, is somewhat impressive, but I don't. Tay Conti, I think she's battling on this weekend, and I just don't really see there's that many names for her to really go up against to make her championship reign mean anything.
Yeah, really. It's just you're just waiting for some. It's just going to have to be like her going on like some dominant run until she can win both the titles together.
I briefly saw a little bit of the backstage stuff with her and Conti, and also as well, I think there was a small video package for Layla Hirsch and Chris Statlander, that's going to be on the pre-show, like, buy-in type thing. And again, I don't want to come across as too much of a dick here, but the promo abilities of these four women, it feels like kind of trainee wrestlers at promo school. Like, it's not it's not believable in any way, and it just doesn't help.
Dan, any interest in Hook versus QT Marshall?
I mean, there's somewhat of an interest. I mean, like for better or worse, obviously people are buying into the Hook character. I'm still not fully convinced. I don't know if it really has the legs to turn into something big. But again, I kind of give AEW credit for doing a little bit of a slow burn with him, because given the amount of popularity that he has amongst certain fans, again, it would have been tempting for him to just be thrown straight at something like the TNT Championship or higher, and that obviously would have been a mistake. So the fact that they're keeping him a little bit on the sidelines, he has a buy-in match against QT Marshall. It's it is what it is. Not something I'm really tuning in for, but it's might be worth a watch.